On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers have a record-breaking performance on Sunday against the Dallas Mavericks. Plus, the Mavericks are trying to copy the Cavs. Big basketball is back, baby. We're going to talk about all that and so much more on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Make sure to drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Cleveland Cavaliers get a 144-101 win on Sunday afternoon over the Dallas Mavericks. And there are a couple of things that need to kind of be said to set the table for this Cavs victory. Yes, Dallas looked to me like a team on Sunday that wanted no part of playing a basketball game. Dallas is still a professional basketball team, but the effort level from them, I did not think was all that high. The focus level from them, I did not think was all that high. And they just traded away their best player in Luka Doncic. They traded away the guy that I think everybody on that roster assumed was going to be the franchise pillar for the next decade plus. So I think that there was a little bit of shell shock within that Dallas bench, but I don't think that makes what the Cavs did any less impressive, because the Cavs offense on Sunday had one of the best days it has had in franchise history. I mean, they scored 50 points, in the first quarter, which is something I don't believe they've ever done before. They scored 91 points in the first half, which is a franchise record. They scored 144 points in this game, and they very clearly, took their foot off the gas for the entire second half. Like, the starters played the first 6 or 7 minutes of the third quarter, and then they were pulled and not seen again, which was great. Like, all the starters, I believe, played under 45 or under 24 minutes in this game, which is something that, I think is a very valuable thing to this Cavs team at this point in the season. Like, anytime you can steal rest like this during a game, I think it's a big advantage. But I was so impressed with the way that the ball moved. The Cavs had 40 assists in this game on 53 made field goals. Like, that's a really, really impressive stat. They made 26 3-pointers, which is a franchise record. Previous record was 25, so this was broken. Sam Merrill hit 9 threes in the game on Sunday, including the one in the fourth quarter with around 2 minutes left that broke the franchise record. So there's a lot to really like about what the Cavs were able to do offensively. And yeah, it came against a team in Dallas that probably would have rather have been another place. And I think this game might look a little different. I don't think that with the state of Dallas's health, and, Dallas had some other guys out, like Kyrie Irving did not play. PJ Washington did not play. Basically, anyone that was questionable on the injury report did not play in this game. So I do think that had they not traded Luka away for Anthony Davis, does this game look a little different? Maybe. But I still think it's one the Cavs would have won. And it's hard for me to watch this game, even knowing what we know about what Dallas did the night before, or I guess very early the morning of, because that trade happened at about 12:15 a.m. Eastern time. It's really easy to look at that and say, that's why the Cavs. No, the Cavs are, again, playing really good basketball. And there are some things that we've seen over the last week or so. They've won 4 straight now. Like, remember this time a week ago when we're talking before their game against Detroit, they lost 3 straight, including that loss to Houston last Saturday night at home. And I think some people were in panic mode. Well, since then, they've won 4 straight. The defense has been awesome. They've looked like a championship contender again. And sure, the competition maybe hasn't been the steepest in that week, but wins are wins, and they're hard to come by in this league. And I do think that there were some really good signs to come out of this game specifically. And I want to start talking offense. I will talk about defense coming up in segment number 2. But I think that the biggest bright spot, and Evan Mobley did not play a ton, as you would imagine, in a game where the Cavs won by 43 points. He only ended up playing 23 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, the Cavs were this is ridiculous to say out loud. The Cavs were a plus 47. They outscored the Dallas Mavericks by 47 points in the 23 minutes and 40 seconds that Evan Mobley played on Sunday afternoon. Like, that is ridiculous. Evan and Donovan Mitchell both played 23 minutes and 40 seconds. Their shifts were identical, so they were both plus 47, which is just absolutely bonkers in an NBA game. To outscore a team in basically a half of basketball by nearly 50 points is nuts. And that's what Evan and Donovan did in this game. But Evan Mobley's stat line to me is important. So, like I said, 23 minutes, 40 seconds, scored 22 points, had 11 rebounds, blocked 4 shots, but he hit 2 3-pointers. And since Evan has come back from that calf injury that cost him, a handful of games over the last couple of weeks, he has, I think, gradually looked better and better and better, right? Like, he didn't come back from that injury and just look like the all-star Evan Mobley that he's been all year. He looked a little rusty in that first game back. And then the second game back, he looked better. And then the third game back, he looked better. And I thought against Miami, he looked good. And then, on Thursday against Atlanta, I thought he looked good. But the thing that had been missing, and I don't know if it's fully back yet, but the thing that had been missing from Evan's games since returning from that calf injury was his 3-point shot. Like, that is the one thing that I thought the shot has looked a little flat. I think at times he's looked a little hesitant, letting it fly, shooting the ball from outside. And that is something that the Cavs, when that is working, and he doesn't need to be making 5 of these a game for it to be working, when he's taking 4 or 5 a game and making 2 or 3 of them, that's when I consider it to be working. When that is on, the Cavs offense goes to a different level because they become so much more difficult to defend when Evan Mobley is a capable shooter from outside. He's been a capable shooter from outside all season long. These last few games coming back from his calf injury notwithstanding. But this is kind of the last thing that I see is, okay, Evan Mobley is almost back to being Evan Mobley. I still don't think he's all the way there. He missed a free throw short on Sunday evening. My days are all mixed up. It's been very hectic. He missed a free throw short. He missed a jump shot short. Like, I still think that those things are a little bit of a work in progress, but I do think that he looks very explosive around the rim. There was a moment he got out in transition on Sunday where he looked fast. Like, he looked maybe the fastest I can remember him looking, and that ended up with a really, really beautiful pass to Jared Allen for a dunk. But I think that we're seeing him make progress on a regular basis. Like, every game that he's playing, I think he's getting a little bit better. You're starting to see him be, I don't know if healthier is the right word, because I don't know that anything has changed physically. Probably a little bit more confident in that injury to be behind him. Like, I do think that is one of the things that we don't talk about enough when guys get hurt. Like, yeah, you wonder about the physical limitations, but oftentimes, especially with something as tricky as a calf injury, when guys go through an injury, they have to kind of trust their body again. And I think we think about this with more significant, severe injuries. Like, I know we talked about this with Ty Jerome early in the season because he had such a bad ankle injury last year that it cost him his entire season. And it's kind of like, when did you get back to trusting that ankle? Well, with Evan, it was an injury that only cost him a handful of games, but you still kind of, as an athlete, have it in the back of your mind. Okay, is this good? Am I good to do this? Am I good to jump here? Am I good to move like this? And I think we're seeing in real time Evan do those things and start to retrust that again. And I think that we are seeing him get better and better every single game. And I thought that Sunday is the best game that he's played since. His box score numbers don't look crazy other than the plus minus, but that's because he only played 23 minutes. Like, if he plays his normal amount of minutes, say he plays 31 minutes in this game, he probably finishes with 30 points and 15 rebounds. Like, that's the type of game he was having. The other guy that I do want to quickly talk about here is Sam Merrill, because Sam he's not having a great season this year. And I think Sam would tell you that. He's talked openly. He entered the day on Sunday shooting just under 33% from 3-point range. And he's a 37% career 3-point shooter. Before this year, it was much higher than that because he's just had a really, really rough year. Well, he made 9 3-pointers in the game on Sunday. had 27 points, which ties a career high for him. And I don't know if this is the type of thing that you obviously cannot expect Sam Merrill to make 9 3-pointers every game. Like, that's a ridiculous thought. But I do wonder, is this the type of game that can jumpstart him, that can get him back moving in the right direction, that can get him back closer to being the 40% three-point shooter that the Cavs believe he is, and that if you've watched enough Sam Merrill, like, the shooting stroke is good enough to where that's what you should be expecting out of him. Can this type of game, now I don't want to say boost his confidence, because I don't think it's something with him that's been shaken. Like, I don't look at Sam as somebody who's not been a confident shooter. And I think that his shot diet, considering how difficult some of the attempts that he takes, I don't think if you're not a confident shooter, I don't think that you're taking the looks that Sam Merrill has been taking. But I do think that there's a significant value in having a game like this for Sam, where he just sees the ball go through the net so many times, and he can feel better about himself and have more confidence in, maybe just find that touchback. And if he can, that's a really big asset for the Cavs, because I do think, and Kenny Atkinson after the game talked about Sam as playing really good defense throughout this season. And I don't think he's wrong there, but I do think that it was fair to question whether or not Sam still had a spot in this rotation when the Cavs were fully healthy, because one, in the game that they were fully healthy, Sam was the guy that didn't play. Kenny didn't go to 11 when the game was still in question in the blowout loss in OKC, and that's the only game where they've all been healthy. But Sam wasn't one of those top 10 guys. And if he shoots, not even like he did on Sunday, but if he shoots his career average, he's in the Cavs rotation. If he continues to shoot 32%, he's not going to be in the Cavs rotation. So maybe Sunday was a step in the right direction for him. Another thing that's been stepping in the right direction, well, that's been the Cavs defense. It's been much, much better lately. We're going to talk about that. Plus, somebody made the return on Sunday in Cleveland. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Are you looking for tickets to the next big event? Maybe you've got eyes on, I don't know, some football game that's happening this upcoming weekend, or maybe you've got eyes on going to a basketball game here in town coming up shortly. I don't know what you're into, but I do know that no matter what you're into, Game Time can help you get in the building. All you got to do, download that Game Time app, and you will be able to access so many tickets that they've got to offer. And they've got a new feature too. Very important here, because buying tickets can be a headache. But if you want to remove that headache, you don't need to take ibuprofen. You need Game Time Picks. So it's never been easier. And here's how it works. Game Time Picks does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so that you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings, because there are a lot of tickets out there. The curated deals make it simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. And they've got the super deal for prime seats. You won't be able to believe the value here. Like, it is an absolute steal. So what you need to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That is LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. And also make sure you are subscribed not only to the podcast, but the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. The one thing that I do think, again, is this is not just about Sunday, because the Cavs played a Dallas Mavericks team that wanted to be anywhere else. But the Cavs also took care of business. The Cavs were also focused. They handled this in a very mature way. Like we have at times, not under Kenny Atkinson, but at times in recent Cavs history with several guys that are currently on the roster, we have seen this group lose to teams that they have no business losing to. Like there's a game a couple of years back against the Golden State Warriors where Steph Curry didn't play and Draymond Green didn't play. Klay Thompson was still in Golden State. He didn't play. And the Cavs lost that game to a Golden State team that just did not have any of its regulars. And that was a game. Ty Jerome actually had a huge game for the Warriors in that one. But we've seen that happen before. Again, not this year, but in recent memory with this team. And the Cavs did not allow that to happen. I think that's a really good sign. I think that's a sign of maturity. I think that's something that is just worth talking about a little bit from this game. The other thing that I think is worth talking about is what the Cavs are doing defensively right now. So obviously having Evan Mobley back is a really big deal for them, and the healthier he gets. And I talked about the differences that we're seeing offensively, and he had 4 blocks on Sunday. So that's another decent difference for him defensively, that he's moving around a little bit better, that he's a little bit more explosive. But over the course of this Cavs winning streak, and they've won 4 straight games now since the world was falling apart because the Cavs lost 3 straight. In this winning streak, the Cavs defensive rating is 103. That's the first mark in the NBA over the last week. So Monday, when the winning streak started against Detroit last Monday, through Sunday. And I'm recording this during the Celtics-Sixers game, and there's another game still tonight. So maybe it changes, but I doubt it. But over the last week, the Cavs have the number 1 defense in the NBA. This is too small of a sample size for me to sit here and say the Cavs are the best defensive team in basketball. I'm not doing that. What I am doing is I'm viewing this as they're capable of it. They can do it. And they've been so inconsistent this year on that end of the floor. And that's something I've talked about a lot on the show. It's something I've asked Kenny Atkinson about several times. I've asked players about it several times. Like, that is the one part of this team I can't figure out. I can figure out offensively. I can figure out, a lot of the things that are going well. I can even figure out some of the things that maybe aren't going so well. But defensively, I can't figure out why they're so inconsistent, because stretches like this one, and again, against the Dallas team that doesn't have Kyrie Irving, didn't have PJ Washington, missing a lot of guys, obviously just traded Luka Doncic. Like, this is not about Sunday, because if you go back and look what they did last week against Atlanta, they were pretty good defensively, I thought, against Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, save for 1 quarter. If you go back and look at the game they played against Miami, yeah, they had a terrible 3rd quarter in that game, but the other 3 quarters were absolutely terrific. They suffocated Miami in 3 of the 4 quarters. Against Detroit, it was all 4 quarters. They were great defensively. Like, they have put together some really, really strong defensive performances over the past week. And that, to me, makes me feel as if, okay, this team, the floor for them should be a top 10 defense, and they're about at their floor right now. They entered this weekend, I believe, 9th defensively. And I think their ceiling should be the number 1 defense in basketball, maybe number 2, because OKC is ridiculously good on that end. So maybe their ceiling is, let's just say, top 3. I think, and I don't know that they'll be able to get there, but I do think a good goal for the Cavs the rest of the year, and maybe it starts after the All-Star break, but I think a good goal for the second half of the season for the Cavs should be, from the All-Star break on, they should be a top 5 defense. They should be a team that is top 5 in both offense and defense, because they've got the personnel to be capable of it. And getting Caris LeVert back on Sunday certainly is a boost on that end of the floor, because he is somebody that, this is a team that has been short, I think, on wing defenders, and Caris LeVert is one of their better wing defenders. Not sitting here saying that he's the answer to all of their problems, but he's one of the better wing defenders, especially while Dean Wade is sidelined, I'm going to presume, through the All-Star break, because he will be evaluated a week from this Wednesday. I'm going to presume he does not play in their last game before the All-Star break. So I think that Caris LeVert being back helps the defense. Obviously, that was only in 1 game, and some of the minutes that he played in Sunday were garbage time minutes that don't necessarily matter in terms of just like the overall product. But I look at this and say, man, the Cavs have it within them to be a really good defense. It makes me wonder why they haven't been more frequently, and injuries are certainly a part of that. But inconsistency, I do think, has been part of it. The fact that they maybe haven't been as good defensively at the point of attack is one of the biggest issues with this team. But weeks like this one that we've just seen, I think, serve as a reminder that, okay, they are capable of doing this. Like, they are capable of being a top 5 defense, because they've proven they can do it, whether it's for a week stretch like this one or for the entire month of December when they were 3rd defensively. I do think that one of the goals for them should be to be a top 5 defense. Maybe it's from, that losing streak forward. Maybe that's when we're talking about the Cavs playoffs matchups, we're saying, the Cavs from whatever that date was, January 27th, when they played the Pistons. From that point forward, they were a top 5 defense, or maybe it's from after the All-Star break, they were a top 5 defense. But I think having that sort of goal is something that we should be looking at for the Cavs. Like, that should be something that, one, is very achievable for this team. Like, they've got Evan Mobley, they've got Jarrett Allen, they've got good defenders on the wing when they're healthy. Those guys haven't been healthy enough, and that is part of the problem, but they're also motivated. They're also a team that should be focused enough to do that. And, the better defense for them leads to better offense. Like, look how many points they had in transition against the Mavericks on Sunday. Like, they were really, really able to get out and get in transition against the Mavericks. And that was something that really gave them problems. Like, the Cavs got so many stops. I mean, they were up 50-19 after the first quarter. Yeah, the offense was incredible, but the defense was a really big part in that too. And they deserve credit for what they did on that end of the floor as well. So one of the things too that came out before this game was played, because Dallas made a big trade, right? We got to talk about that. I was at the Nico Harrison, Jason Kidd press conference, which was bizarre. We'll touch on that. But the Mavericks are actually trying to copy the Cavs. And I'll tell you why next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, PrizePicks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. One of the things that you could be looking at is how many points is Jason Tatum going to score when the Boston Celtics come to Cleveland on Tuesday? I don't know. How many assists is Luka Doncic going to have when he finally plays a game for the Lakers, whenever that is, maybe later this week? I don't know. But pick more or less on those numbers, and you could win. The best part, PrizePicks keeps it simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast, secure withdrawals mean that you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Check out the promos tab to tail any of the super sweet Millie Winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So what you need to do is download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That is LOCKEDON NBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And the Dallas Mavericks made a big trade, as we know. Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris, they've all been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. Do I think that the Mavericks could have done better in this trade? Absolutely, I do. I think it's ridiculous that the only team they talked to, as Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison admitted on Sunday, was the Los Angeles Lakers. But one of the comments that Nico Harrison made, and this was not during the press conference, he made a comment, I believe this was to the Dallas Morning News. He talked about what the motivation was for the Mavericks here, right? Because it's an interesting move, I think, to say the least. And he talked to the Dallas Morning News about this, and he said, in wanting to trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, he talked about the Cavs in that. He said that this is something that he wanted to emulate what the Cavs are doing, because the Cavs right now with Jarrett Allen, with Evan Mobley, have been fantastic, right? They have the best record in basketball. They're the first team to 40 wins. They are 40-9. Evan Mobley is an all-star. Jarrett Allen had an all-star case. Worked out pretty well. So Nico Harrison said to the Dallas Morning News, I think if you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, that's what you're going to see, he said, in referencing trading for Anthony Davis, because now Dallas is going to play with 2 bigs. They're going to have Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington can play big. Like, they're going to, more often than not, have another big alongside Anthony Davis, whether he's playing center or power forward. Their plan is to have two bigs. Does that sound familiar? It sounds a lot like the Cleveland Cavaliers because that's what the Cavs do. So Harrison's quote continued. Anthony Davis probably going to finish games at the 5, but you're going to see those guys play together. And when the Lakers won, he played the 4. Well, that is exactly what the Cavs have. Like the Cavs, I think their best lineups feature Evan Mobley at the 5, but they can win with Evan Mobley playing the 4. They start games with Evan at 4. He plays a lot of 4 throughout the game when he's alongside Jarrett Allen. When Allen and Mobley are on the floor together, it works really well. It's really difficult for other teams to stop. And more importantly, it gives the Cavs the ability to, for 48 minutes of a game, have a true big man out there. And that's not something every team can do. And we are starting to see, I think, more and more teams play bigger, right? Like that game in Miami last Wednesday, they've got Ware and they've got Bam. They've got two big guys that are now starting together. It's early and we'll see how that goes, but that is something that we're seeing. Now, Dallas wants to do it. They want to be a copycat of the Cavs. And I asked Kenny Atkinson about this before the game because it's something that, I wonder, is this cyclical? Like, 15 years ago, every team started too big, right? Like in the first rendition of the LeBron Cavs, it was Zydrunas Ilgauskas starting alongside Drew Gooden or Anderson Varejao. Like they started a true power forward, and spacing was much different, and the NBA was a different time. There's no doubt about that. Now, having a big that can shoot, I think, is very important to making this work. So we'll see how it goes in Dallas. I've got my doubts, but we'll see how it goes. And it's working really well in Cleveland because Evan Mobley can shoot. But I asked Kenny Atkinson about it being cyclical. And, he said maybe that kind of thing, the style of play gets overrated a little bit. Like teams playing small, playing big. And it's more actually about the players. And if this is going to work out for Dallas, it's going to be because Anthony Davis is a really good basketball player, and Derek Lively is a really good basketball player, and Daniel Gafford is a good basketball player. And in Cleveland, it works because Evan Mobley is a really good basketball player. Jarrett Allen is a really good basketball player. It's not necessarily about the style. I do think, and I thought it was interesting that he said that. Like, it's not always about the style. It's not about what you do. It's about who is doing it. It gets back to that, X's and O's or Jimmy's and Joe's conversation. And I think that it makes sense that if you have good players, you're going to be able to make more things work. Whether or not this works for Dallas, I have no idea. I've got some significant doubts about it. And I don't think that they did well enough in a trade sending away Luka Doncic. I think he's a top 5 player in basketball that, by all accounts, seemed ready to sign a Supermax extension with the Mavericks this summer. But they traded him. So now, is it going to work for Anthony Davis in Dallas? I don't know. But I do know that it's a really good sign for the Cavs that the Dallas Mavericks looked at them and said, we want to be those guys rather than having Luka Doncic. It's wild, but that's what this trade said. And the fact that they said it out loud, I think that's a really good sign. I think this is a sign that the rest of the league believes in who the Cavs are and believes in where the Cavs are going. Thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Be back a little bit later today. The Whip Around episode is back. We're talking Celtics. We're talking Pistons. We're talking Wizards because that's on deck for the Cavs. So I will talk to you a little bit later. And then we'll talk about the Celtics on Tuesday.